Oh, there it is. Dated Tuesday, November 26th, 2024 at 1:04. And we'll do acknowledgement statement. City of Lethbridge acknowledges that we are gathered on the lands of the Blackfoot people of the Canadian Plains and pays respect to the Blackfoot people, past, present, and future, while recognizing and respecting their cultural heritage, beliefs, and relationships to the land. The City of Lethbridge offers respect to the Métis and all who have lived on this land and made Lethbridge their home. Can we do a roll call? Yes.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll do a roll call. Councillor Campbell.
Present.
Councillor Crowson.
Present.
Councillor Dodick. I'm here. And Councillor Middleton Hope is on a leave. Councillor Parker. Here. Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Here.
Acting Mayor Carlson.
Present.
He's online. Deputy Mayor Palladino is
Present.
here, and Mayor Hagan
Is absent.
is on his way.
He's on his way.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Do this and then we'll ask if there's any.
Okay. I'm going to ask if there's, Deputy Mayor, I can't do my own motion. Pass it on to Councillor Parker with a mouthful of.
Read the resolution, Bert.
Be it resolved that the agenda of the regular meeting of City Council on November 26, 2024 be adopted as presented.
Call the question. Unless there's any additions or deletions, Madam City Clerk.
There are no revisions to today's meeting, so you can proceed as the motion
Now call the
stands.
question. Call the question. All in favor?
All in favor?
You got this.
I got it.
Any opposed?
None opposed? Okay.
Good. That's consent agenda. No, you can just point. It's not on, okay?
Oh, consent agenda here, moved by Acting Mayor Carlson, who is on the screen.
Acting mayor?
Read them all.
No, just say acting mayor. Anything that you want to add?
Are there any additions or deletions to this?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm seeing none. I did have one question, if I may. Some of the status of directed resolutions, so through you, Deputy Mayor, City Manager, are being postponed. Is that just capacity issues, or is there something else affecting those?
Thank you, Acting Mayor, for the question. I see the LPS technology line of credit policy and the Q4 meeting for the audit is postponed to March 5th, as well as the budget appropriations, BAU. So I'll hand it over to City Treasurer.
Thank you, Mr. Councillor Carlson. So Councillor Carlson, thank you for the question there. And what we're doing there is due to capacity issues and so forth with some of the things we just may have discussed earlier this morning, we were asking for a little bit more time to do that work and bring it back instead into March of next year.
Thank you for that. I reviewed everything. It looked appropriate to me. Any other questions or anything my colleagues noticed in the consent? If there's none, I will call for the vote.
Deputy Mayor, we have a request to bring forward item 10.1, and that is, sorry, that's Encampment Strategy Council update. We have Sergeant Dara here, so we're wondering if council would entertain to bring that forward to be the first item right now. Do you want to do that first?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's do recognitions.
Recognitions, thanks.
Madam Clerk or Deputy Mayor, did we vote on the consent?
Yes.
We did.
Oh, I didn't hear that. So thank you. I was in favor.
Recognitions?
Yes, I'd like to recognize the late arrival of Mayor Higgin. Thank you.
Can't get away from that. Councillor Campbell.
Thank you. Just a couple things for people who want to get in the Christmas spirit. You can check out Glow, which is back from for its second year. It's at the exhibition. It's beautiful and entertainment when you go there as well. Also, if you're on the west side of Lethbridge and you're on Red Crow Boulevard, you really have to stop by and see the Caldwell House. 100,000 lights. It's amazing. It's quite a display. And what's also nice is that you can also drop off toys for the Toys for Tots campaign with the Salvation Army. Also you can deliver food for the food bank. And also for basketball fans, and if you've never seen this, we're talking about 4 NCAA Division I teams that are here for the Western Slam. It's the Visit Lethbridge.com, arena.com. It's amazing basketball. It goes November 28th to the 30th. These are guys that are going to be competing for the Final Four in the state, so you know that's big basketball, well worth it. And there's also local basketball teams taking part in advance of that too, so it's a worthy night out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. Thank you to the Lethbridge Chamber of Commerce for hosting lunches with Danielle Smith and John Middleton Hope, as well as Naheed Nenshi and Rob Marashero. It was a really good opportunity for members of our business community to get out to hear from the UCP and NDP party leaders, as well as 2 of the by-election candidates. There are other candidates announced and coming, if I'm hearing that correctly. A reminder that advance polls for the Lethbridge West by-election open on December 10th, and election day is on December 18th. A reminder that it is also time for the annual Brighter Together survey. Economic Development Lethbridge, Downtown Lethbridge BRZ, and the Lethbridge Chamber of Commerce are working together again this year to survey local businesses in order to better understand and evaluate the business landscape in our region. A link to the survey can be found on the EDL and Lethbridge Chamber websites. A shout out to the Lethbridge Chamber for another successful women's conference. They held that on November 21st. I encourage my colleagues and staff members to watch out for next year's event. Also on November 21st, the Downtown BRZ and Downtown Businesses hosted the annual Christmas tree lighting and Moonlight Madness. It was fantastic to see so many people brave the cold and go out to watch the tree get lit up on such a frosty night. I encourage everyone to get out and check out how Festival Square looks. They've got a few more decorations and it's a little bit brighter this year, so please do get out and take a look at that. And finally, congratulations to the Lethbridge Construction Association on its 70th anniversary. Councillors Croson, Palladino, and I were able to attend the festivities on Friday night. And congratulations to the recipient of the LCA Industry Impact Award, Neil Nunweiler. Thank you very much.
Sir. Councillor Parker.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. I just want to congratulate the LCI senior girls volleyball team, who this past weekend, well, first of all, Lethbridge did an amazing job in hosting the provincials, 5A provincial tournament. And that was the first time that in the LCI girls history that they ever won first place in provincials. And so I was at the game. It was exciting. So congratulations to not only those young ladies, but the whole program. It's a great success and it's a good news story for Lethbridge.
Thank you, Councillor Parker. Mayor Higgin.
Thank you. No, most of the things have already been mentioned, but I had the opportunity this last week to do a couple of presentations. So my colleagues attended as well on physician recruitment. So both at the county and as well yesterday evening we went out to Tabor and presented as well. And we've got unanimous support from those 2 councils on our initiative moving forward for specialists within our area. We know that there are needed in a big way. And to have the support from surrounding communities and working together as a region is extremely important. So we've had unanimous support thus far, and we've got a couple more that we're going to be doing to other councils in the area. Also, if anyone has the opportunity, please check out the GLOW event. I don't know if that's mentioned yet or not. Okay, at the exhibition. And you've got to go there to witness it. It's better even than last year, and I thought last year hit it out of the park, and so it's getting better and better each year. And last but not least, attended the anniversary of Smith's Audio Video last week. 80 years as a business, 80. And to the Platels, what an amazing accomplishment that is. It was quite the event. And I was talking to some of the reps that were there. They said it is I want to say the oldest, I guess it is the oldest audio visual place in Canada that they were dealing with. So that's pretty incredible. They started out in Coaldale and have moved in. This is going back over 80 years ago in farm implement and radios, and have moved to what they are today. And watching some of their videos that they had, and they did a lot of commercials. And so of course they were showing those commercials. And I'll tell you what, you go back to those 70s, 80s commercials, it was pretty interesting. Put on probably, Councillor Campbell would know in his time with different television broadcasters and making different commercials. It was quite fascinating to see. So again, congratulations Smith Audio Video on their 80th anniversary.
I think the Platels also sold appliances during that time as well, so I remember that. Councillor Crowson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. At this time of year, many of our organizations throughout Lethbridge and Southern Alberta are trying to make the holidays as best as possible for other residents in Lethbridge. Thank you to everyone who's involved for all the work. If you need help, reach out. If you can help, whether through volunteering or financial donations, please also reach out so we can make the holidays the best possible for everyone across Southern Alberta.
Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Most of them have been covered. Just coming up this week, though, is the annual Winter Lights Festival at Nikayuko Gardens. I believe this year they're celebrating the 4 seasons. Forgive my pronunciation. Haru, spring; Natsu, summer; Aki, fall; and I gotta get this pronunciation right. I believe they start this Friday with a special sneak peek on Thursday. Other than that, my only recognition goes out to Deputy Mayor Palladino and Councillor Campbell for their amazing facial hair that is popping on the video screen. I'm assuming it's a Movember thing, but you guys look great.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to Deputy Mayor Palladino. As I'm running a few minutes behind, I need to have someone go let dogs out, and if it wasn't me, it was going to be some troubles that I would find when I got home. So thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. We do have to move forward. I'm not sure if it was voted on or not, if there's any issue with moving administration submission from Mr. Malcolm forward. It's just a submission for questions and stuff. Is that fine with my colleagues? All right, because we do have Sergeant Dara and others here to answer any questions. So with that, are there any questions? Questions for, and it would have been in your package, regarding the encampment strategy council update? And I don't see on my screen. Oh, there we are. Wow. Gotta have a question. So great, I'll have a question. Come on, what's the laugh for? You can't come here and not get a question, right? How is the encampment strategy going? Both Mr. Malcolm, for me or for Andrew? Yeah, definitely. Sergeant Dara, the mic at Mr. Malcolm. Move that mic up.
Perspective, the encampment strategy is just kind of trucking along. I was going to say that this update is relatively uneventful, and I think the one piece we wanted to touch on is just the use of technology that we've been able to partner with the LPS and the use of the drone. So I'll turn things over to Sergeant Dara to speak to that.
What, you can't see him? Not tall enough? Sergeant Dara.
I usually blend in quite well, actually. I guess from our point of view, it's moving along. We are definitely hitting some hurdles when it comes to the area around the shelter. which is linked to some displacement from the expansion. But yeah, it's been some trying times, but it's not overly getting worse or getting better. We're just kind of treading water, I think, in my opinion, at this point. So.
Right. Thank you very much. Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Thank you very much. And maybe not a question to you, Sergeant Darrow, so much as through you, Mr. Mayor, to our city manager or designate. Where are things at with the shelter construction? And we haven't had an update from them. Do we have any idea where things are at? Just, you know, speaking to knowing that we've got some issues in that area?
Having, sorry, don't mean to step on you there, Lloyd. Being in a meeting with them this morning, they are addressing some construction material delays. They're trying as best they can to get things moving along as fast as they can, but just some hurdles when it comes to the contractor side of things.
Okay, and maybe could we have an update from our LHA board representative?
The meeting is, we're meeting tomorrow, so I actually don't have an update. If you recall, there was an indication that it was going to take some time. I believe it was the end of January before they were going to be able to be completed. But that's, I'll be better able to give you more information after tomorrow's meeting.
And then I guess just along with that, I see that Minister Nixon was hosting an online event. Just before we came down here, I saw that he was hosting an online event talking about the commitment from the provincial government to help communities out, particularly with encampments and with shelters and facilities as we're going into the colder weather. Do we have any commitments from the provincial government on that, either with LHA, which you might not know until tomorrow, or is there something that we can speak to from a city administration point?
I can speak to that. If you recall, or probably were aware, about a month ago, there was some political jostling between the federal and provincial governments. The next day, we were notified as administration of the need for an urgent meeting with them. They then requested a plan for additional, or how they could spend additional encampment funding in the community, which we put together with LPS's support on with a couple hours turnaround, and that was submitted, and we've reached out since asking if there was any update, of which we have not received anything back. So we have submitted, where we put together a plan that would utilize additional funding in our community, but we haven't heard back yet.
Okay, and that was to the provincial government?
We submitted through the provincial government because the federal government is distributing those funds to the province to get to municipalities.
Okay, thank you very much.
Again, thank you very much for this work. I know it's not easy, and it's trialing for anyone involved, and especially having those folks that are most vulnerable within our community, not having the shelter when it's or the expanded shelter space when it's the weather is like it is today, and will be going forward if it doesn't get done here. You know, sooner than later, might be something else we'll have to look at. So thank you very much for that information. I have a resolution here from Deputy Mayor Palladino. Be it resolved, the City Council receive the encampment strategy report as information. Councilor Palladino.
Call the question.
Question's been called. All in favor? That is a long vote. Yes, that is unanimous. So you just raised your hand to support the encampment strategy. Perfect. Thank you, Councillor Campbell. All right. We'll move back now to 6.1. Councillor Crowson and Councillor Carlson regarding the annual budget review. It's an OBM. Is there something you wanted to start off with prior to reading the resolution, Councillor Crowson or Councillor Carlson?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I had my mute button on. If you want to read the resolution, there may be questions from our colleagues, or we can do a preamble, either way.
Sounds good. I'll read the resolution here from Councillor Carlson and Councillor Crowson. Whereas in accordance with the Municipal Government Act Section 242, each municipal council must adopt an operating budget for each calendar year by January 1st of that calendar year. And whereas in accordance with the MGA Section 283.1, each municipality must prepare a written plan respecting its anticipated financial operations over a period of at least the next 3 financial years. Whereas in accordance to the MGA Section 283.13, each municipality must prepare a written plan respecting its anticipated capital property additions over a period of at least the next 5 financial years. And whereas the City of Lethbridge has had multi-year operating budgets for the past 24 years, first in the year 2000, a 2-year budget, then 4 consecutive 3-year budgets, then 3 consecutive 4-year budgets, including the most recently approved operating budget for 2023 to 2026. And whereas multi-year budgeting allows the city to better forecast longer-term financial needs to deliver specific services to the community, makes it easier for residents to anticipate future taxation requirements to deliver those services, and is more efficient use of time and resources as the organization is not constantly preparing budgets. And whereas on August 24th, 2021, City Council directed the City Manager to provide ongoing annual reviews of the operating capital budgets for year 2, 3, and 4 of each budget starting in 2023. And whereas the original intent of these ongoing annual budgets was for Council to evaluate whether specific service levels are meeting the needs of the community and to examine the alignment of specific service levels with community expectations, or administration to bring forward emerging operational issues for consideration that could impact service levels. And whereas the scope of the most recent annual review expanded beyond the original intent to include open requests from the community, which has led to unintended consequences due to possible misinterpretation of the annual review process. And whereas the misinterpretation of the annual review process has led to reopening the operating budget in mid-cycle, which has resulted in additional pressure to fund ongoing budget initiatives with one-time money. And whereas such practice does not follow the city's established policy and practice of funding ongoing expenditures with ongoing funding, whereas on May 28th, 2024, Council approved a budget process model that allows the capital and operating budgets to be developed within the same council term and the deliberations to be staggered by 1 year to ensure the same council capital budget decisions are integrated in the operating budget deliberations within their term. Therefore, be it resolved, the City Council further define the annual budget review to include only the following: economic update presentation, September financial operating forecast, capital improvement program summary progress report, operating budget initiatives progress report, specific operating budget level inquiries requested by City Council, any operational emerging issues that could impact service levels brought forward by administration. And further be resolved that any other budget requests or considerations that would require an adjustment to the approved operating budget outside of items listed above be deferred to the next 4-year operating budget deliberations. With that, I'll turn the time over to Councillor Crozan and Councillor Carlson. And Councillor Crozan, do you want to start?
As I made my call, oh, good heavens. As made my colleague go first last time, I will go first this time. Be aware we only put all the MGA information in there for Councillor Dodick. We wanted to make sure he had checked them all to make sure they were right, and I'm sure he has. But what this essentially is, yes, there's a lot of information in this. What it essentially is finding the right balance. We have a 4-year budget that allows administration and the organizations that we fund to be able to plan ahead and do things over those 4 years. And yet, when we first opened the budget back up in 2020 during the pandemic, we also know that we need to be available to make decisions when chaotic things happen, when changes happen, etc. But if we expect too much of the annual review, we're putting way too much work onto administration during that. So what we're trying to find here is that balance between the data that governance needs to make good decisions within that budget cycle, and also not putting so much expectation onto our administrative team during those annual budget reviews. And we hope here that we have found that balance between, dealing with things that might come quickly before us, but also doing that long-term planning. And we hope our colleagues will support this. And did I capture everything, Acting Mayor?
As usual, you did exactly, Councillor Crozan. Just to reiterate that this is just for clarity, to put some parameters and set some expectations, not just for our administration, but our community. That the budget will not be an annual budget. We've done very well creating a 4-year budget, and we just felt this last go around that maybe there were some expectations in the community because of requests that were coming in about new budget initiatives, and that was really not the intent of these reviews. It was just to monitor and ensure that everything was going along fine. And it's definitely not intended to limit whatever council can do. As Councillor Crowson said, in 2020, we opened up the budget. Council can do that at any point. But to set an unrealistic expectation in the community that then creates a lot of work for council and staff seemed time to look at it and put forward something for council's consideration if these limits on our annual budget review were appropriate and were supported. Councillor Crowson and I talked quite at length with each other and administration and felt these were fairly good parameters to put on, and we hope council will agree.
Thank you, Councillor Crowson. Councillor Carlson, I do have one question, actually a couple questions here. The first one being, I didn't notice on the include only the following. For example, if something comes forward, if it is a, during that 4-year time slot, a curling event, a Memorial Cup, I don't see any service level. I see service levels, but I don't see where that fits in anywhere here. As well as other organizations that have come in. I guess the second question with it's somewhat related is in a 4-year budget, there could be found efficiencies after first or second year that maybe the organizations may not require the funding that is given. So there's a way to reduce actually taxation, but I don't see that within the therefore be it resolved.
I think you'll find that under the specific operating budget service level inquiries. So if City Council did find something, that would be done as a resolution, as an inquiry, and that could affect service levels and make changes there. And then that's operational emerging issues. So if something comes up, I mean, nobody would have expected the exhibition within this 4-year term to be what it is. And so I think under those two, you have the wiggle room to deal with what you were looking at.
Because the reason why I bring that up is we've just heard a couple hours ago some I'll put it this way, some damning news with our economic development. Boy, that was not the Lethbridge and District Exhibition, these EDL and LDE Lethbridge and District Exhibition, where this could affect taxation depending on what council is presented in the future. And so possibly some of that offset could be to find other efficiencies within other departments, et cetera, that could offset that, not to the full extent possibly, but enough that could make that change. And I just don't see that enough include only the following.
But that's the emerging issues, right? That would be an emerging issue.
Okay.
That final bullet point, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
The final bullet point, any operational emerging issues, I believe that's what Councillor Crowson is saying. That's exactly. LDA is an emerging operational issues. As we've seen in the past, things like in the middle of our 4-year budget, the province canceled grants in lieu of taxes. We were able to use some of our contingencies for that, but had it been a little bit more aggressive from the province, we would have had to open up our budget. So those are the emerging operational issues that I think you're describing.
And thank you. So up to including, for example, if we have some funding that would come from another level of government for housing or something, and there's some matching dollars, would that fit in with that last bullet point? Is that fair to say?
I think you're also going too detailed, because what we would do in the 4-year budget is put money aside to match things that would come from the province or from the federal government. And then that would be on an operational basis that we would do it. So we might not change that overall amount, saying we put 20 million, and I'm just picking that out of the air, for matching money. That's already been set by the budget. How we apply that would be regular resolutions of council. And so that would not go into the annual budget review, because that could be done at any council meeting.
So any operating dollars, for example, if an organization comes forward, a new organization, not making them wait 4 years, that may help, that would fit with that last.
We're not stopping you from using MRSR. I mean, Mr. Matthews might stop you from using MRSR.
To take you over to
right.
a budget. Okay.
So, yeah, so there are other options. We're not taking any of those options away from council that we use for those sort of things. We're saying that week that we had, that was all about the budget, rather than making our staff do all that work as if it's a full budget, let's have them focus on this. We have all those other strings that we can still pull within the 4-year term.
Yeah, because I do appreciate that, and I probably say this in debate, but right now, we'd heard, many of us around the horse who I'm sure have heard, you guys are in budget. we're actually not in budget these last couple weeks. We're in, review, but that can be misconstrued as that we are doing a full budget again. And so if we're not giving those dollars, so thank you. I appreciate that, and thank you for answering those questions. Any further questions? Seeing none, I'll give it over to open debate. Councillor Crowson, Councillor Carlson.
Go ahead, Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Really, I hope it's fairly straightforward. I think, Mr. Mayor, you hit the nail on the head there, that it does seem like we're doing a full budget every year now. And that seems to be the expectation in the community, which puts a lot of extra work on council and city manager and his staff. And so we're trying to just set the expectations. I don't want to say this is limiting. It is up to council to make decisions. One-time requests, as you brought up, something like the Memorial Cup. Those things can always still come forward because those are not ongoing budget requests. They wouldn't affect ongoing operating budget in as much as we would fund those on a one-time basis, either from contingencies or from different reserves or budget sources. So I don't want anyone to think this is limiting council in any way. It's basically just setting expectations.
Councillor Crowson.
I would absolutely concur. And remember also, when it comes to things like curling, we have money set aside in our grant programs and things like that. And if those grant programs we find aren't large enough, that's another discussion for another future budget. And so this is about parameters. This is about letting staff know what is expected in ongoing years so that we're not overwhelming our staff. And I hope my colleagues will support this.
Any more debate? Seeing none, thank you very much, Councillor Crowson, Councillor Carlson, for bringing this forward. And I can take it as a question has been called. All in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to bylaws, I have a resolution from Councillor Crowson, a recommendation of an Economic and Finance Standing Policy Committee meeting, bylaw 6455, amendment to bylaw 6146, the waste bylaw. For the second reading, be it resolved that bylaw 6455, amendment to bylaw 6146, the waste bylaw be given second reading. Councillor Crowson.
So this is actually nice coming out of the conversation we just had, because Schedule A in this bylaw was already approved in our 2023-2026 operating budget. Schedule B does have a few amendments, but we do have to do some of these bylaws annually, and this is one of our annual bylaws. And as I said, there are no surprises in here. We've discussed this at Economic. When it comes to Schedule A, it was discussed at the past operating budget, and I hope my colleagues will support this.
I see no questions or debate. So with that, question's been called. All in favor? And that is unanimous. For a third reading, be it resolved that bylaw 6455, amendment to bylaw 6146, the waste bylaw be given third reading, and the mayor and city clerk be authorized to sign and seal the same. Councillor Crowson. Question's been called. All in favor? And that too is unanimous. Thank you. The next one I'll move, or Councillor Schmidt-Rempel moves bylaw 6466, amendment to bylaw 6364, electric distribution tariff 2025. For a second reading, be it resolved that bylaw 6466, amendment to bylaw 6364, electric distribution tariff 2025 be given second reading as amended. Now there is amendment, and I'm sure you've all seen it within your package. I could read the 4 pages, but I'm sure from Councillor Dodic, maybe if you wanted to, Councillor Dodic, just give Reader's Digest version, if you could, of these 4 pages of why the amendment.
Yeah. I have 2 questions of Mr. Durant. I have some questions of I've got questions of Mr. Durant. They're quite simple questions. In the presentation, it indicates that there will be no change to the local access fee that the city of Lethbridge charges to electric utility customers in 2025. And then it goes on to say the local access fee is set as a percentage of the sum of transmission access fees and distribution access fees the local access fee will be 15.5% for the 2025 and is set by city finance. The reason I have a question on that is because the distribution access fee is going up by 2% and the transmission access fee is going up by 1.5%. So how can there be no change to the local access fee if that fee is dependent on the sum of those two, and those two are going up slightly?
Sure, through the mayor to Councilor Dodick, you are correct. So overall, there would be a slight increase in the overall bill. But the 15.5% local access fee, that's the actual fee that we charge, is not changing. That remains constant. It's been at that rate for a number of years now.
Okay, thank you. The mayor wants me to be quick on this. There's a distribution tariff. There's two components to it. Transmission access fee, that's going up 1.5%. Distribution access fee is another component. It's going up 2%. The local access fee is as indicated in the report. The effect on customers are going to be approximately $1.70 a month for the average residential user. It'll go up 0.87% for the commercial and 0.72% for the industrial on average. I would ask for council support. Thanks for the answer.
Question's been called. All in favor? And that is unanimous. And for a third reading, be it resolved that bylaw 6... Oh, yeah, that one as amended for the second, yeah. Third reading, be it resolved that bylaw 6466, amendment to bylaw 6364, electric distribution tariff 2025 be given third reading as amended, and the mayor and city clerk be authorized to sign and seal the same. Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
I'll call for the vote.
Question's been called. All in favor? And that too is unanimous. Thank you.
That was third.
A motion from Councillor Parker, recommendation of Economic and Finance Standing Policy Committee, bylaw 6456, amendment to bylaw 3999, the Water Service Bylaw 2025. For a second reading, be it resolved that bylaw 6456, amendment to bylaw 3999, the Water Service Bylaw 2025 be given second reading. Councillor Parker.
Onto the budget cycle, and at the end of the day, it's a 2% increase. So for the average resident for 2023, they were paying $36.92. This year, they're paying $37.67. That's on 20 meters cubic, and then next year it'll be $38.41. The last 2 years, it is a 2% increase. So it has been approved by finance in the past, but now it has to be ratified for council through this bylaw. So I'd call the question.
Question been called. All in favor? Unanimous. And for a third reading, be it resolved that bylaw 6456, amendment to bylaw 3999, the Water Service Bylaw 2025 be given third reading, and the mayor and city clerk be authorized to sign and seal the same. Councillor Parker. Question's been called. All in favor? And that is unanimous as well. Thank you. And moved by Councillor Campbell, recommendation of Economic and Finance Standing Policy Committee, bylaw 6457, amendment to bylaw 3250, the Sewerage Service Charge Bylaw 2025. For a second reading, be it resolved that bylaw 6457, amendment to bylaw 3250, the Sewerage Service Charge Bylaw 2025 be given second reading. Councillor Campbell.
And as the theme is going, this will increase wastewater utility revenues by 3% through changes to retail wastewater rates. Within the bylaw, rates will increase by 3% for all customers as approved during the 2022-2026 operating budget. I'll ask for my colleagues' support.
And thank you for taking the sewerage movement. Well, question's been called. All in favor? And that is unanimous. And for a third reading, Councillor Campbell as well. Be resolved the bylaw 6457, amendment to bylaw 3250, the Sewerage Service Charge Bylaw 2025 be given third reading, and the mayor and city clerk be authorized to sign the same.
As so moved.
It's moved. All in favor? That too is unanimous. Thank you. Next, we have a presentation from Jason Drenth, and regarding amendment to bylaws 6233 and 6234 and 6364, the rate of last resort. And the floor is yours, Mr. Drenth.
In October to provide an update on the rate of last resort program. Just very quickly, Some of the high-level changes, back in April, the provincial government announced changes to the regulated rate option program and renaming it the rate of last resort option. That's to come effect January 1st, 2025. And some of the changes that came along with that, the RO rate used to be a monthly rate. We're now going to a fixed 2-year rate. There was requirements on how we procured energy in the past. There are no longer those specified requirements anymore. There was no change in, or there was no limit in the amount of change from month to month previously. Now there's a 10%, plus or minus 10% change allowed between terms. So every 2 years, we can either go up 10% or down percent as a maximum. And then lastly, is just regulatory approval. City Council remains the regulatory authority for the RO process with the City of Lethbridge. Some of the other changes, we have to clearly state on the customer's bills that you are, if you are enrolled with the rate of last resort, is to identify that on the bill. The utility consumer advocate is going to contact customers every 90 days to remind you, hey, you are on the rate of last resort. Do you know that? Do you want to change? If you want to change, here's options. There's a 0.1 cent per kilowatt hour consumer awareness surcharge, which will fund the UCA from making all these contacts to customers. And then there's also a rate opener, which will be triggered if the rate of last resort provider, in this case the City of Lethbridge, is either making too much money as profit or we're not making enough and we're incurring losses. So there is a rate reopener that can be triggered by the AUC. So what I'm here to talk about today is bylaw 6474. That's the roller bylaw, which is going to amend bylaws 6233, 6234, and 6364, which are the terms and conditions of our distribution tariff, the RRO bylaw, and the default supply bylaw. So what we've done is we've gone through all 3 bylaws, removed the wording, any reference to RRO, replaced it with rate of last resort. We've updated our energy price setting plan, which is just basically the formula of how we go out and procure energy and set our price for the, in this case, the 2-year term. We've updated the billing information requirements as part of the T&C, terms and conditions. And then there's this part here about the Market Surveillance Administrator determination report. So the process, the way the process works is LEU, the Lethbridge Electric Utility, comes up with our energy price setting plan. We submit that plan to the Market Surveillance Administrator. The MSA, they're the group that oversees the regulated markets within Alberta. So they make an assessment, and what they were doing is they were assessing our energy price setting plan to make sure it's fair, efficient, and competitive. They give us a report back and give us a grade. So in our case, they have come back and said that our price setting plan is fair and competitive, but they did not find us efficient because they don't have enough information at this point. They, as in the MSA, looked at our price setting plan, said we don't know if you are actually covering all of your costs or covering too much of your costs. So based on that, we can't determine whether you're efficient and how you're going to impact efficiency. We're not alone in that. All the other big players, so ENMAX, EPCOR, ATCO, Fortis, they all were found in the exact same way because there's just, it's the first year. The MSA is really trying to make a determination based on they're not even sure at this point because it's brand new. So we're in the same boat as everybody else. We're all going to our regulators with the report, the energy price setting plan, to propose that, to make sure we get council approval to do that. Just one note on that, our energy price setting plan actually has not changed. It's the same plan that we've been using for 20 plus years. So we're confident, the electric utility is confident that we're covering our costs appropriately. So that's why I'm here today, to get approval for that, because in order to set our price, which we must do by December 2nd, we need council approval to update the bylaws and move forward. So the next stage, provided council approves first reading of the bylaws, we'll post our rate of last resort rate on December 2nd. That's a regulatory requirement. Must be done 30 days in advance of January 1st. And then, subject to second and third reading, assuming we get first approval today, on December 10th, we will firm up that price and post it, make it firm for the 2-year term. So, recommendations. City Council provide first reading of bylaw 6474, the roller bylaw, today, and then moving on to December 2nd, which is the last council meeting of the year, provide second and third reading of same bylaw. And with that, try to get through that as quick as possible. I'll leave time for questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Durant. Appreciate that. I do have a couple questions. I, as well as probably, I don't know how many citizens in the community use this, which would be the rate of last resort?
Yeah, currently there's about 11,000 customers that are on our regulated rate option right now.
The reason I ask that is we've heard, and I'm sure the community will have the same questions to us sitting around this horseshoe, a 10% up or down. I probably would rarely ever see it go down, but we do know that it could, I guess, if you find that within your background research on rates. And so when I see 10%, that's a big hike, and we're hearing utilities and where they're already at. And so do we know what that rate may look like in the future if this is approved? Is there something that's already set up for the next short time? Because you said plus or minus 10 is going to be looked at every
2 years.
Every 2 years. So
yes.
Already now would be the first time, I would imagine, coming in. Is there a percentage increase or decrease currently?
The initial set, so when we come back, once we've determined what the price is going to be, which we're going through right now for years 25 and 26, we don't know what that price is going to be, but it's going to be, it looks like, lower than what it currently is right now on the RO. That's what it looks like right now. We're still fine tuning it, but it should not be an increase from where we are right now.
Part of that question, is it beneficial or advantageous for the city to have citizens move to a different provider rather than the city? It seems at times we're saying there could be increases and, look for someone else. I mean, that's common out there because you'll get emails on a regular basis. What can we do? We'll give you a 50-inch television. We'll do this, we'll do that. We don't do that, so everyone knows I don't think we've given out televisions or Xboxes. However, just for that, is it advantageous for us to have folks on our utility, or does it really matter?
So the province is really pushing hard, and that's why they've come up with this new program. They're pushing hard to get people into the retail market, into the competitive world. The rate of last resort is not a competitive product. We don't compare against others. We don't compete. We don't provide incentives. We are just there to provide energy to people who either don't choose a retailer because they just don't even think about it, or they can't for financial reasons. So those are the real reasons that this program is there.
Okay.
If people choose to stay on it, that's, the UCA is that's the idea behind the UCA contacting these people, is to try and get them to say, hey, there's other options here that might be better, well suited for you other than this. So there really is no pros and cons to the city of Lethbridge.
Right. The exception, I know I like to receive less bills, although they equal the same amount probably, but having it on one is sometimes better, but just myself. Councillor Donick.
Yeah, I'm one of those rate of last resort guys too, So the question was basically answered. You said there's 11,000 customers on the regulated rate option, last resort option, whatever it is. As a percentage of customers, what does that represent?
Currently, we have approximately 43,000 customers, so about 25%.
So we still got 25%. And you had indicated that there's folks that don't want to leave, probably like the mayor and myself, who just, what the heck? And some that can't because of a financial reason. I'm assuming that there's no way you could break that down in terms of the 11,000 customers that we have right now. Or could you?
If I go back, I mean, I don't have the information here. I could break it down maybe into a little bit more granular level. Yes.
No, that's okay. I was just curious if you had that information. It's more of a curiosity than anything to do in terms of which way I'll vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell.
I just, for a question for people who just pay their bill, I don't, I just got to pay it. I got to pay it. Don't even look at it. Don't even consider the options that are there. And I may be one of those, but so I guess the question is, can you give citizens confidence that these changes that we're implementing today will not have a tremendous impact one way or another on the casual payer of the utility?
That's correct. So current customers won't see any change. They will not see any change from December 31st, 2024 to January 1st, 2025. The bill will still come the same. The only thing you'll see different if you are on the RO right now is you'll see the name change to the rate of last resort. You'll see comments on your bills to reflect that, and in time you'll get a phone call or some communication from the utility consumer advocate. So it is status quo as far as a current customer. You should not see any change.
Good, thanks.
So again, to confirm, nothing will happen with a 10% increase. We hear this 10%, and I just know if people take bits and pieces of the meeting, they'll have that opportunity still to find another provider if they decide to do so.
10% change is only change between terms. So the first term will come up here. We're looking like prices aren't going to jump. Between 26 and 27, that's when that plus or minus 10% change will take effect.
Great. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Drenth. Oh, another question, Councillor Parker.
Thank you for your presentation. So I remember last year there was the government was carrying a deficit of some sort because there was a huge power usage and all that, and people who were on the regulator, the default, they were the ones that had to pay for that. Am I correct? Is that deficit been paid up, or are those people on the default?
We are just finishing up that program, yeah. So the timing was to finish paying up off that deficit account and moving on to this new program.
Okay, perfect. Hence the reason for the possible drop then.
Yes, correct.
All right. Thank you for that, Councillor Parker. All right, I see no further questions, so I have a resolution from Councillor Dodick. Bylaw 6474, amendment to Bylaw 6233, 6234, 6364, rate of last resort. Be it resolved, the City Council provide first reading of Bylaw 6474, Bylaw 6474, two times, amendment to Bylaw 6233, 6234, and 6364, rate of last resort, and provide second and third reading of Bylaw 6474, amendment to Bylaws 6233, 6234, and 6364, rate of last resort at the December 10th, 2024 council meeting. And I think right at the top, if we have that change, yeah, bylaw. All right. And with that, Councillor Dodick.
Call the question.
Question's been called. All in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. All right, next we'll move on to administrative inquiries and responses. And I do see in front of me, which everyone will have within the package, the administrative responses for Councillor Dodick regarding the unapproved secondary suites. Also from Councillor Crowson, city hiring practices and procedures with a response. And from Councillor Schmidt-Rempel, working with school boards on needs and assessing the school accelerator program. If I don't know if there's any questions with that, but the response has been done. Councillor Crowson.
Thank you, Ms. Mitten, for the information. It was very useful. There is just one question, and I just want a general yes or no answer. No, I don't need details. So you've got the policies, you're working on them, you're updating in 2025. Staff is made aware of the policies. Are there consequences for staff if they break these policies?
Yes, absolutely. A breach of policy requires some sort of consequence. We do investigate. It might include something like an employee movement so that the reporting structure is not inappropriate. But you did ask for one word, so yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor Higgin.
Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Just confirmation that the response to my query will come back at the next council meeting.
Which one was
with
that one?
regards to working with school boards on needs and accessing the school accelerator program?
The response is
completed.
You should have that.
Yeah, I've got click or tap here to enter text.
Yeah, I believe it will come back next meeting.
It'll come back next. Thank you.
All right. Councillor Dodick.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the inquiry I did on secondary suites. I just wanted to send a message to the realtors that it is inappropriate for them to advertise unlawful suites, secondary suites, or non-conforming, which is an incorrect term, but they use that as well, non-compliant secondary suites, unapproved secondary suites, any iteration of a suite that has not been approved. We sent that message out over 10 years ago because what was happening is the realtors were advertising these as such, and I gave an example in my inquiry, although it's been redacted to not show who it is. So what they're trying to do is increase the value of the home by saying that there's these secondary suites. To have a secondary suite, you actually, if it's in the discretionary use area, you have to apply for a development permit and deal with safety issues. But my main impetus was simply to tell brokers and realtors, stop doing that. Now.
Thank you, Councillor Dodick. Appreciate that. All right, moving along to City Council updates. Are there any City Council updates? Councillor Crowson.
Thank you. I think you recognize that I sit on the CUDA TBMC board, and we met on November 17th, had a delightful 2.5 hours meeting on a Sunday afternoon. I have a lot more I can report, but here's a couple of things that I think my colleagues would wish to know coming out of that. First, CUDA did a bunch of advocacy in Ottawa, so there's been work being done on it. One of the things CUDA has been working on is a transit code. They're adopting, or they have adopted Halifax's transit code, which is about ensuring safety of riders and operators. And I am working with Mr. Sanchez to look into bringing a motion forward to see if Lethbridge wishes to adopt such a transit code as well. So future discussion. St. Albert is actually doing a study whether to bring their transit staff in-house. Right now they're private. They are going to be doing a study. I have requested that they get us a copy of that when it's done because I think it will be of interest to us. And in Regina right now, they have fare-free transit for all 13 and under riders, and they are doing a pilot project to provide free transit for one high school to look to potentially providing free transit for 18 and under. And I have asked to sort of be kept in the loop on that as well to keep people informed. But there is a lot of stuff being done with different transit departments across the country that may be of interest. As I said, these are just a few of the highlights that I bring forward. But if anybody wants further information from that meeting, let me know, as I have copious notes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crowson. CUDA, just for everyone out there to know, is Canadian Urban Transit Association. So it's, yeah, transit across the country. So thank you very much for that. Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Last week, Councillor Crowson and Mayor Higgin and I had the opportunity to attend the Tourism Industry of Alberta Association's Tourism Economic Budget Forum and Premier's Dinner. That's a mouthful. Topics covered were a mid-game assessment of provincial economic and political landscape, the official opposition's perspective on the value of Alberta's tourism, sport, and outdoor recreation economy, lessons learned in 2024 as per the Jasper wildfire, and impacts of increasingly extreme weather events on Alberta's tourism industry, and there was a Q&A session with the Premier and Minister Scow. I also have copious notes from those sessions, so if anybody is interested in learning more, certainly let me know and I can provide those to you. And thank you to Tourism Lethbridge for the opportunity to attend this event and learn more about our local and Alberta's tourism industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you for those updates. I do have a resolution as we move into closed session motions, and from Acting Mayor Carlson, labor matter verbal, whereas administration wages were frozen at 0% increases for the year 2020, 2021. I'm sorry, Councillor Parker recused himself. So whereas administration wages were frozen at 0% increases for the years 2020, 2021, and 2022, and whereas administration wages for 2023 and 2024 were 3% respectively, now therefore be it resolved that City Council approve cost of living adjustments, COLA, for administration for the remaining 2 years of this budget cycle as follows: 2025, 3%, 2026, 3%. Be it resolved that City Council direct that the closed meeting discussions with respect to the labor matter remain confidential pursuant to Section 24. Advice from officials of the Freedom of Information Protection of Privacy Act. Acting Mayor Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Are there any questions from my colleagues?
I see no questions.
Our city manager for his input and council's discussions on this, and then I'll call for the vote.
Question been called. All in favor? Councillor Dodick in favor? Yes, that is unanimous. Thank you. And with that, we are adjourned.